All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we are answering your questions on the free-to-play farming guide that was released. I know it hasn't been long that it's been out, but you guys have had some really good questions, seems really well received. So I want to answer a few things that I've seen, address a few of the comments and questions that I've seen so far. Again, I'll probably do another one of these videos a little bit later on as I collect more stuff, but I want to get out ahead of it, answer some of your questions now. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, comment down below. If you haven't seen the farming guide, it's going to be linked in the description down below. This is just me answering the questions that are associated that I've seen with that, going on here. So let's first and foremost thank our channel members so much. To those of you who are on the council, you may not yet be granted the rank of master, but you're still granted a very special place in my heart. Guys, I very much appreciate your continued support. And of course, gotta mention the Wampa and Jedi Master tier members. You guys are all fantastic. Thank you guys again for putting your faith in me to provide you with good content. Again, link to channel memberships also down below. Let's talk about some of this stuff in the free-to-play farming guide. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the guide. So, the first thing I saw people have some questions on here, again, this sheet is linked in the original video, is, yes, I did have a mistake here. Stormtrooper Han is a Cantina store character and not a Squad Arena store. I would have sworn at one point that he was a Squad Arena character. I would have like bet money on that too. Like I would have sworn that he was a Squad Arena character, but he is Cantina battles. Maybe I was just always wrong. But, so again, not the biggest deal at the end of the day. It's still a very similar thing, just kind of changes, a few. It's not a big change there, right? I would say overall that doesn't really impact the guide. The next thing I saw a lot of you asking was around Old Ben and Farm Boy Luke here, and why I'm saying to farm them out of Cantina instead of using raid currency. And I want to flip back over to the game to show you this, because this is a very important, this was a good question, but I think it's one that you've got to really understand a bit more about the game, right? So, your guild store here. There's a lot of good things in here, and as you scroll down to the Mark 1 raid currency, where we can use this to purchase, oh, excuse me, all the way down in here, where are you guys at? There's Han Solo, right? And now we're getting into Farm Boy Luke and Old Ben for 200 of this currency. It's not bad, right? There's a lot of characters in here that you would say, hey, this is pretty good. And in terms of the price, you're wondering why it's locked for me. It's because they're 7-star. You look at Han Solo. Han Solo's 700 of these pieces compared to 200 to get Old Ben and Farm Boy Luke. So you're looking at me and you're like, Phil, why would I ever do that? Like, why not do these things? It's so much faster. Early on in the game, shards are not going to be as big of an issue for you as gear is. So every time that you buy 200, every time you buy shards of Farm Boy Luke and Old Ben and these characters in here that we can get elsewhere, it's resources that could go towards getting you more core gear. In the early stages of the game, it's core gear that's going to kill you, not character shards. You'd be surprised. I know a lot of you don't believe that. I'm telling you right now. Shards will not be as big of a problem as core gear is. The more of your Mark 1 raid currency that you can use on core gear, the better off you're going to be. I'm telling you guys, trust me on this. You want to use, that's why like with Han, we want to rush along with raid currency because he's a great character. The rest of these guys, just kind of let them naturally accumulate through the Cantina, because early on, there's not a lot to farm in the Cantina, right? There's not a crazy amount of stuff to farm in here. Getting these two things along with the Phoenix is not much to do at all. You will still have plenty of time to farm things pre-signal data there. So that's the big reason, is all about that core gear. Doesn't sound like a lot until you think that you've got to buy this. When we scroll down here, all the way down, keep going, Phil, come on. Oh, excuse me, guys. So, Farm Boy Luke, we need to get, where's it at? There we go. So, you need to buy this 33 times, right? You need to buy this 33 times. 33 times 10 will get you the 330 shards that we need, right? That's the math. We need to buy this 33 times. So 33 times 200 is over 6 6,000 currency. 6,600 currency. If you scroll up here, and let's go to, I really wish there was a good core gear piece. Here we go. It's 1,600 for 125 of these pieces. I mean, that's it. I would much rather have these than the shards. So, look at, for stun cuffs, that's over 250 stun cuffs that you'd be pissing away. So, again, I'm just trying to portray to you guys that I did think about it, and I just prefer to use your Mark 1 raid currency for outside of Han Solo, using it for core gear, and you're going to save yourself a lot of time on the back end, because shards, again, not as big of a problem as the as core gear will be. Very much so. The next thing I saw a lot of players asking about was more so related to, if we scroll down a little bit here. What I saw a lot of players asking about was the 5th, or actually it's up here, sorry. Was the 5th Imperial Trooper, is it smart, and this is Justin Legolas brought this up to me too. Is it smart to use Iden Versio and the Vulture Droid here? So using Vulture Droid, farming this ship, remember it shares a node with Iden Versio. So Iden all of a sudden can become a very good character to farm in that later point in the game, or in the early stages of the game, sorry. I got my cats, they're doing something, it's bothering me and it keeps distracting me, so I do apologize. So Iden Versio shares a node with that Vulture Droid. And because she shares a node with the Vulture Droid, it makes her a very good option for that 5th Imperial Trooper. Now again, it's another hard node. It's another thing that, like, I get it, a lot of regular energy. But this is one of those farms that as you're cleaning up other things, as you're moving along, you free up some energy. This is a very solid one to do. Going to give you that Separatist fleet and Iden Versio to use inside of your Imperial Trooper team. Excuse me, guys. I'm very sorry. It is a bit late for me, but I want to get these videos out here in preparation of the holiday weekend coming up. So that's another thing, right? Yes, I very much recommend Iden Versio. I think she's a solid 5th character. Also something that you can build for the future, because her team is really good in Grand Arena and in other game modes. There's some really good uses for her team. I very much like that. So the next comment I saw was actually talking about the Starkiller team, and they said, you're talking about being efficient and then you're telling us to go farm Visas Mar. That's not very efficient. Remember, I try to mention this as much as I can. It's more efficient to build Scavenger Ray because you need it for Galactic Legends Ray. You would be very correct in that. You do not need Visas Mar for anything. She's not a wreck for anything. But there's plenty of stuff in this game that it makes sense to build because of performance. So in my personal opinion, Visas Mar completely revolutionizes the Starkiller team defensively. Offensively, it even gives you options, but defensively, it can completely change what your opponent does. If I see my opponent with a Starkiller team without Visas Mar, I'm so much less worried. I can take a little bit more risk. I can bring a team against that. Like, you bring your General Grievous droids against that Starkiller team. Getting a kill when Stick Ray is there, you're solid. You're golden. You got a kill. You broke up the synergy going for an easy cleanup. But you kill somebody that isn't Visas Mar and she brings them back, and then you kill the General Grievous team, you lost. That's the difference that Visas Mar brings. So you don't want to just do something for the sake of efficiency. This is exactly kind of going back to that, maybe a better way to say it, right, is that this guide is all about being efficient, but not stupid, right? Like, we're not going to make dumb decisions just because we don't want to gear a character like a Visas Mar who we don't need for anything else. Because I would argue to all of you, right, to counter your point, you don't need Dark Trooper for anything right now, so why would you ever gear him up? You don't need Range Trooper, you don't need Iden Versio. Why would you gear these characters up? Oh, they're good? Well, Visas Mar fits that bill then, right? She's very important. So yes, is it as efficient overall in the grand scheme of efficiency? No. Is it smarter to use Visas Mar than Rey? Yes. And that's where my guide, you've got to understand, there's efficiency and then there's being efficient for the sake of being efficient. You don't want to do it for the sake of efficiency. You want to be efficient and smart. And maybe that's a better way to say it, or efficient and not stupid. So, Visas Mar there, guys, very important character. Somebody that I think very much will impact your account in a solid way. Another question I saw was, when would you build somebody like Savage Press, and kind of throwing Treya into the mix here? So it's difficult because you do not need these characters for anything, right? They're not requirements. They're a great team, but they are not, excuse me, necessary. So with that said, when I personally would farm Savage Press is when you're at a point in your account where you can stomach a side farm while doing something else. Or a side, and I'd say a side project, not a side farm. Remember, there's two differences there that I try to portray. A side farm is something that I'm building. For example, here's a good way to think about it, right? My side farm right now is Trip Zero and Paz Vizsla. I'm building them on the side. I don't have any intention to gear them at the current second, right? Our main goal here is getting Tarful, getting Saw Gerrera, gearing them up for Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, and saving gear. That's my primary goal. So I've got these side farms. I do apologize. L3, if I decide to gear her up, she's a side project where I can recognize, hey, you know what? I can go get L3. It's not a lot of Kyra tech. I'll have plenty of relic pieces. I'll have plenty of signal data by the time I get Bane. I'd really like to get her up. That is the same way that you look at Savage Press. You need to ask yourself the serious question of, can you go stomach building a character like him and or Scion, Treya, Nihilus, whatever you decide to do? Can you stomach building those characters in the middle of another farm? Or that, like, hey, I just finished a GL, I'm going to go relic these things, and then I'm going to move on to the next big ticket item. That's kind of where those things fit in. There's not this magic number of, hey, at this point. So much of it is roster dependent. That is the one thing I'll say that I try to sell about myself in roster reviews, is that I can look at your account from an individual perspective, kind of marry it up to what I would expect to see, and then give you what I think you should do. So it's very hard to tell you, hey, at 6 million GP, you should do this, this, and this, because that's not what this game represents, right? This game isn't about certain thresholds needing to have, all these different things, because galactic power doesn't work like that. So that's just a few thoughts on the free-to-play farming guide. Thank you guys so much again, kind of answering some of the comments and questions I've seen. I love all you. May the force be with you, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.